Hi everyone, Tallie and Farrell here from Board of It, and welcome to our Best Board Games for Two Players video. Longer term viewers of our channel will know that we have a series of videos called Best Board Games for Two Players, not specifically designed for two players, where we tell everybody what our favourite games to play at two players are, where they're not specifically designed for two players, so you can get an understanding of whether a game scales well at two players and what some of our favourites there are. But we thought, why not also do a video for games that are designed specifically for two players?
Exactly. So we're going to do our top 10 two-player games. And we're going to go through reverse order. We don't know what each other has picked.
It's a secret ranking.
But before we begin, we're just going to say, because there's two games, I think that a lot of people will be like, oh, why didn't you include that? So we're going to say why. We haven't included Seven Wonders Duel because we didn't like it very much. I mean, there you go. That's why it's not on our top 10.
I wouldn't say didn't like it very much. It's just didn't grab us as much as the other ones on our list, right? For me, at least. No, I quite liked it.
I'm joking. Well, did you like it enough to make it in your top 10?
No.
Yeah, well then. No, I'm joking. It's not that we didn't like it. It's just we got it. We played it like 2 or 3 times, and then we're like, it's all right. And then we like lent it to our friends. And then we got it back and we played it like another once or twice. And we're like, oh, that's pretty good. And then we sold it.
We lent it to our friends and didn't miss it at all.
No. So, yeah, now we got rid of it and we're just like, yeah. So that's why that's not there. I don't know, it just wasn't for us, I guess. And I know that's like, well, if you go by BGG, it's almost a quintessential two-player game. And then War of the Ring. And that is because, again, I don't think either of us are super big on it because that's probably a game that would be a surprise that's not on the list. So I think actually, well, I won't spoil it for a game that comes up later, but it's compared to another game quite a lot, and some people prefer this one, War of the Ring, I mean. And I don't know, it's weird because I think you don't like it so much because it's pretty heavy, like rolling dice, dudes on the map, kind of combat-y, although there's a lot of other stuff going on. But that's not your thing. Yeah. But for me, I'm like huge, Lord of the Rings movies, book fan. And it just, I don't know, it just didn't grab me. I just wasn't thrilled by it.
Yeah, I guess ease of access as well is
that's a good
one
point.
thing, right? It's very hard to get to the table. It's a very long game, which we're not scared of, but there are other longer games that are, table hogs that we'd rather get out, I think.
It's like setting up the miniatures, right, as well. That adds on, like, even setting up the game. You have to differentiate them all. Yeah. But so that's why those two aren't there. It's not that we haven't played them or forgot about them or anything. So, do you want to start?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to say as well, just to remember that when we're ranking games, it's not that we don't like the games that are at the bottom of the list. We like, all of the games that are on our list. It's just that when it comes to ranking games, you have to rank them, right? So if we say, okay, I didn't like this one as much as that one, it doesn't mean it's a bad game or we don't like it. It's just that something has to go at the bottom of the list, right?
But also these made it out of like pool of 25, I think we wrote down.
Yeah.
So
they're all good games in our opinion.
And before we start, I'd like to say that I'm really glad that we've now made it because we've been trying to film this intro for like 20 minutes and the dogs keep going mental.
They're causing a riot tonight.
Yeah, I've had to stop 3 times and pick up like bones that they're chewing on like maniacs that you can hear from over here. And then the second I picked up the third one, they started beating the crap out of each other. Over there, and then Meg's going in the rubbish to get our attention. It's been
it's been a
lot of work for an intro. Yeah. So go on then, you start.
Okay, well, I'm not as professional as you, and I have to refer to the list on my phone, whereas you're going to attempt to remember it.
Poor showmanship.
Let's see how it goes when you try to remember. Okay, so my number 10 is Lawyer Up, which is a little head-to-head 2-player card game where there's basically a trial and one of you is the prosecution and one of you is the defense, and you basically have to sway the jurors. I've put this at my number 10 because I think it deserved to go in the list for me because I think it's a pretty cool theme. It's not the most perfect 2-player head-to-head game in the world, but I think the theme carries a lot. and it comes with some different like case files and different cases to trial. So I think that's just quite novel. So for me, it deserves to be there.
Just had a Kickstarter for like a season 2 of content as well, new cases, and we actually did a review of it not too long ago.
Yeah.
I don't think many people were interested though. Didn't get a lot of views, but I think we like it. We had a funny skit in that one. But yeah, no, it's a solid game. I think it tends about right. It's not like you say, like there are some excellent, which we'll get to, 2-player games, but it's not flawed, but I think it just,
There's better ones.
All right. So when you said, I hope, or, I can remember, I then completely blanked on my number 10 for like 30 seconds of you talking, and I was like sweating, but I remembered it. So my number 10 is Radlands. So Radlands is a kind of new-ish, last year or so, 2-player card game. It kind of looks like the video game Borderlands. It's kind of post-apocalyptic, head-to-head. You each are bandits or bandit camps or something. Anyway, you have 3 camps. They have 3 camps. You play people in front of them. They have actions on them, and the point is to destroy your opponent's 3 camps. It's a very mean game with you kind of spend water to play cards and do actions, and you only get 3 per round. And it's really mean, really tight.
Yeah, a lot of tension in that
also game. Really well produced. It's kind of beautiful production, high quality cards, although there's different levels you can get, I think. Yeah. Depends how much you want to spend. You can get like the game for really cheap if you just get cardboard everything, or you can spend a bit more and get like a really lovely production. So Radlands, it's just number 10 because I think I like it. I don't like it as much as some of the other games. I think it's just like so mean, it's almost stressful the whole time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my thought when we were looking at all these games.
Yeah, it's just like, too stressful.
So stressful.
Yep,
okay, so up next is number 9. And my number 9 is Polis.
Interesting.
So, how do you describe this? It's set in ancient Greece. You've got to get a lot of wheat, some wine. There's a little bit of combat in there, although in our games that doesn't tend to happen.
Yeah, and people can't understand why it doesn't. We can't understand how it does.
It's basically a 2-player resource management Euro type of game, isn't it, really? Bit of area control in there.
It's very mean.
Yeah. It's quite tight, savage, but I put this as my number 9 because I like Euro games, even though I'm absolutely terrible at them. I think the production quality of Polis is really amazing as well.
It's a beautiful game.
Even though we don't tend to lean into the combat side of it as much, maybe as other people, like we just never find the need to make combat or do combat. I just think the actual like resource management systems are like really satisfying, nice production. Maybe it just goes at number 9 because I guess it's a little bit dry compared to some of the other games on this list, and I suppose there is combat, and for us we're not doing it, and like why is that? We're not exactly like the spirits in the full game for some reason because we never feel the need to. So I think that's just why I put it at number 9 rather than higher.
I'd also say I really like the system where you have to spend basically your victory points to do stuff as well.
Yeah.
So you spend those prestige, right?
Yeah.
It's very mean. But yeah, I mean, like the first game I lost really badly because it's the kind of thing where you can make a mistake, then you just spirals, like you can never get out of that hole you dig.
That's true.
And because I think it was like you spend a merchant or you make a merchant, and then I just spent it and I was like, oh wait, now I can never get another merchant, and I was like, yeah. So it's very mean, but it's very, if you like heavy complex, like Euro, it's really good. I really like Polis. So my number 9 is Twilight Struggle, and obviously another very classic, could also be called like the kind of pinnacle of 2-player gaming because it was. Yeah, it was like the number 1 on Board Game Geek for a long time, I think, back in the day. Twilight Struggle, one of you is the USA, the other is the USSR during the Cold War. And you kind of go head-to-head, putting influence in different countries, playing event cards that are bad for you or your opponent. I think the reason it probably deserves to be higher, but we haven't played it so much, and it's going back to usability. where it's like this big. I think it really shines if you play it over and over and over, and you both know the cards, and you know what's coming up and what to expect. Because we had one game, you know, if you don't know that well, where you like instantly ended the game because it was like a card where if you're 7 points ahead or something, like win instantly. And I didn't know how it could happen, right? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
We just played this 2.5 hours.
It was wonderful.
But no, I really enjoy it. I think it's a very stressful game as well. It's very long. So I think that's why it's lower, just because it doesn't get to the table as much.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of get that repertoire going when there's other games we want to play that you can play quicker. And I think we'll even get to some similar ones that we prefer more further down this list.
Yeah. Okay, so my number 8, and I don't know if maybe you'll be surprised at this, but it's Watergate. I think it's a really fantastic little game. It's about the Watergate scandal, and one of you're playing as like the press, right, or investigator.
Yeah, the journalists who are breaking their story.
Yeah, exactly. And the other side, you are
like the Nixon administration.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool little game. To be honest, it's probably a little bit lower down my list than it maybe deserves to be, because it is really fun, like pretty quick to play, like very easy to get started and grasp the rules, right? Really nice little example of a medium length, medium complexity 2-player game. But we just haven't played it in a long time. So for me, I think it's maybe like there's better games that we've played more recently and that we want to play more frequently that I feel like deserve to be higher on my list, because it doesn't call to us to be got out over other games.
I disagree, but
why don't we play it then?
I've been looking at it constantly the last like 2 weeks, because we haven't played it in a long time, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I have been wanting to look at it. I was going to suggest it, I think, last week, but then we didn't have time in the end or something.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Twilight Struggle, right, where you play the cards for either their value on the card or the action. So similar kind of system, but yeah, quicker and less cards, like less actions that might come up. So a lighter version of that kind of head-to-head game.
Yep. So my number 8 is Summoner Wars 2nd edition. What? Okay. Thought it'd be higher?
Couldn't possibly comment.
And this is, the 2nd edition of an older game, Summoner Wars, where it's 2-player head-to-head, and you both have decks of kind of summoners. And the decks, well, each summoner and its deck is unique in some way. Like, they all play in different ways. They have different units. They have different strategies you play with them. And it's just a really good kind of chess-like game, because the board you play on is almost a bit like a chessboard, and you move them, and there's a lot about where you move stuff and who they can hit. So that's what I mean by chess-like. And yeah, I just think it's really good, because I think the base set comes with 6 different factions. So you have a lot of replayability. There's a lot of matchups in there. It's really good. You get really good like tense games. I like that even within the decks, because different cards come out, there's different units, you get different strategies playing the same faction. But I think where it loses points to me is it has this kind of late game problem, which I said before, where it can be a point where someone's going to win, and you only win by killing your opponent's summoner, and it's like they're almost certainly going to lose. Yeah. And they're just like throwing up things in front of you to delay the game. And it's one of those things where obviously you don't want them to just give up, but it's just prolonging a game that's over. It's
inevitable, the result.
Yeah, so that's something that loses points for me. It's like it's not often I've had a really tense ending where either person could win. It's just somebody wins in the mid game and then it drags on. Yeah. Fair
enough. Okay, so my number 7 is Curious Cargo, which is a pipeline type of game by Ryan Courtney, but it's like pipeline 2-player light. So it's
or meaner. It depends on your mental.
It's pretty mean actually.
The way your mind works.
Yeah, so it's very puzzly. You have to put your pipeline network together to shoot the goods through the pipe. But it is very brain burny because you have to like move your trucks up and down either side of the player boards. But the trucks can be different sizes, so you've really got to be able to calculate, at which point the goods are going to be able to get onto the trucks from the pipes. And also it's mean because your opponent, if they land their trucks in the right way, can steal your goods essentially.
And you can also push trucks on the other person's side to dislodge what they think is going to happen.
Exactly. So pretty mean. But I think it's a really cool little game. I think it gets points for me because of the size as well. So you can take it traveling with you, and we have taken that on holiday.
I think we've played it like almost mostly on
exclusively
holiday.
On holiday.
Because we took it to Ireland once, and we played it like 6 times. Over like 2 or 3 days.
Exactly. But I think it's just kind of novel as well. It does something quite interesting, even though it is brain burning with the puzzle and the meanness of it as well. Because it's not a head-to-head game like a lot of the other 2-player games are. Yeah. It's more puzzly. So I think it deserves to be up there for the fact that it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think I'm not as enamored with it as you.
No.
I think just
you wanted to get rid of it.
Speak to me as much. I think it's because it's like entirely puzzle, if that makes sense. Whereas like Pipeline's like mean Euro and puzzle.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that was your number 7. So my number 7 is Undaunted Normandy.
Okay.
And this is a little head-to-head World War II shooter, World War II, famously. World War II deck builder. And it's honestly a really terrific game. It's a really terrific system because you have these little scenarios you set up, and one's the Allies and one's the kind of Germans in World War II. And you basically build your deck. So you start with a very limited, maybe like 10 troops and some fog of war cards. And fog of war cards are useless. And then you can recruit by playing certain cards, and you get more and more, and you build your deck how you want it to match the scenario or what the other person's doing. And it just really feels like tight and tense and stressful. And when you take a hit, you lose someone permanently. And obviously you only have limited numbers of every card in the game. So it's like very, very stressful.
Yeah.
It's a very stressful game, I think. And I think, why it probably deserves to be a bit higher, because why I love the system, because it's really simple to explain, really simple to kind of set up and be away and playing, even if you're teaching it to someone. And there's new, not expansions or standalones as well. So there's Undaunted North Africa, which is the sequel. There's going to be Undaunted Stalingrad. There's Undaunted Reinforcements, which is an expansion. But I just really like it. But I think it's like very stressful, and I think maybe sometimes as well it's like it's fine, but it's also a little luck based with the die roll, right? You can get really unlucky, or you get really lucky with the dice.
Yeah, I think it's just a really great combination of like your deck building, but like area control at the same time, but like the head-to-head element. I find it really novel. Like when you first said it before, but when you first got it, look at the cover, and combat games not typically for me, but I was just really blown away by, to me, what felt like a unique combination of like mechanisms to create the tension. And I mean, we always say it really feels like, like that, the tension of the battle, and you look at the scenario at the beginning of the game and it seems super easy that one side is just going to dominate. That never really happens. It's always pretty tense, right? And it doesn't exactly go how you think it will go. So games go on like longer than you think sometimes.
Yeah. But Undaunted Normandy, big fan of that.
So my number 6 is Summoner Wars 2nd edition.
It's funny because you had this higher in your top 10 of last year, and now you have it higher than me, and I just always surprised.
I actually think it's the same position as my top from last year. I think
it might be the same for me as well. It might have been number 8 or something in mine, top 10 of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I won't talk to the game too much because you just did, but I think this is a really cool game, and I think maybe for me it's a little bit higher because my expectations of it were like maybe lower.
That's quite funny.
Again, like maybe I judge games too much on their artwork and the cover, but I just looked
She
at
definitely
it,
does.
Yeah, the kind of like fantastical theme is not something that I would typically
No, I
go
agree.
for.
I think we both aren't too big into the kind of fantasy thing.
Yeah, but I was just really, really surprised at how much I enjoyed it and how tense and tight it was, and like the chess-like feel of it was a good surprise for me. So it's at number 6 for me.
Okay, so my number 6, and this is kind of cheating a little bit, but
cheating.
also I think because we reviewed this game and we said that. So my number 6 is Mantis Falls, which you can actually see behind us over there. A game of trust, and it's a 2 to 3 player game. But I think we felt, and probably the designers would disagree with us, but we felt the 3 player version, saying tacked on is very unfair, but it felt like it was a 2 player game.
Yeah.
The way it worked, because the 3rd player, you always have like one player not involved.
Yeah.
Although there's special cards they can have that involve them, but there's always one player not doing anything. You kind of cycle with one player not really being involved or being able. And we found that it's a if you don't know what it is, it's a 2-player, 3-player social deduction game. It has an incredible theme, incredible artwork. There's so much love and care gone into this, and we really loved it. And we played it quite a lot. And we love social deception, so it really appealed to us. 2-player one, you get all the tension, we love the theme. But essentially, where the twist is that you could all be witnesses, in which case you will have to get to the end of the road and survive. Or you could have a witness and assassin. But if a witness dies, so if you're a witness and you panic and you're an assassin, you kill another witness, you lose instantly. So that's where the social deception comes in.
Yeah.
And also there's like a really powerful card where if it's obvious you're an assassin, they will just like straight up take you out.
Yeah.
So it's about playing the long game and laying there, because your health will go down throughout the game because it's like a mean game.
What's the tagline? It's like a cooperative game until it isn't, or something.
Yeah, like life, a cooperative game that's only really cooperative sometimes. But yeah, so I think one of our criticisms that in a 3-player game, you could kind of lose without being able to influence the game. Like you could just sit there and then somebody kills someone and it's like, oh, I won. You couldn't do anything, because that happened in our game when you won. And I, at that point, knew you were an assassin and me and the other guy were witnesses.
Yeah.
But then because it was my turn to be out, he couldn't do anything against you, whereas I could have, if that made sense. Because I think from the previous turn I'd figured out, but then I was taken out. So anyway, I think this is a long way of saying that. I think primarily a 2-player game.
Well, isn't it a 2-player because the 3rd player is a variant, right?
I don't know. I think it's 2 to 3 players. But anyway, we're just counting it 2 players because it's the best way to play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mantis Falls.
Cool. So my number 5 is Mantis Falls.
Yeah. Why are you showing me up?
I think it's definitely in the top 10 because I think it's really amazing what they were able to do to create a social deduction game that works super well at 2 players, and like we just said, works actually better at 2 players than the maximum of 3. Like you said, theming, everything is really amazing. So for me, it goes at number 5 because I just think, I wanted to make my top 10 variety of different kind of styles, mechanisms, and that had to go in because it is so novel and rare to get that kind of game at that player count.
And we have a review of that as well if like you've never heard of it before. So your number 5, Mantis Falls. My number 5 is Star Wars Rebellion. And this is another cheat because you can play that 2 to 4, but we all know that you will only ever play that at 2 players. Because it's one of those games where you can play it as a team game and all you do is half the amount that you would in a 2-player game. And it's a head-to-head game. It's like I almost thought of, in a similar vein, including mind management on this list. But I think a lot of people play that as like multiple, so I didn't, because that's definitely the extra player count isn't added on. It's like integral to the game. But for me, I think both of us, we feel like that is almost better as a 2-player game, mind management. So I know you can play it at 4, but really it's a 2-player game. I mean,
didn't we include it on best board games?
No, I don't think so.
Did we not? Okay,
no.
that must have been another list.
Because it's a 2-player game.
Yeah.
So Star Wars Rebellion, I mean, it's pretty famous, but if you don't know it, it's Empire versus the Rebels from the original trilogy of Star Wars. And I just think I really like the action system and how it works, because you kind of assign leaders to missions and then you can block people from doing them. You have a dice off. I like the asymmetry where the rebels are hiding and trying to like complete little missions and push the timer down. The Empire's trying to find them, and they both feel different. And I think the only reason it's not higher is because of the famously bad kind of combat system. And that depends. I mean, if you have a lot of combat, the game's going to kind of drag and it's going to get on your nerves. If you can do a game without combat, then you'll have much more fun time. So I think that's what's keeping, and also length, and it's a longer game, difficult to get to the table maybe a bit. Big.
Well, last time we played it, I was surprised that it didn't take as long as I remembered. Actually, it's a good couple of hours, but it's not.
No, I think once
long.
you know, it's fine. But I mean, it's just usability, right? It's a big box, a lot of components. So that was my number 5.
True. Okay, so moving on to number 4. My number 4 is 1960, The Making of the President, which is a head-to-head card-driven area control game in a way, based on the 1960 election. Who is it?
Kennedy
JFK and Nixon. So you're basically round to round competing to try and like gain favour in all the states and win over the states. And similar to Twilight Struggle, you can play cards for their value or their action or the event on it. I think for me, this makes it into my list because I think the theme is really cool and it really lifts the game like off the board. It's very like brightly coloured, if that, I know it's a bit of a shallow point, but to me it's just inviting to play, maybe over something like Twilight Struggle. Because of the way that it like looks, and it's quicker to play. You can get it down in maybe just under 2 hours. It's quicker than Twilight Struggle.
Yeah, for sure.
But it has that similar feel. Very interesting to read all of the event cards, obviously, because it's based on real life events, and really like that. So, really cool at the end as well, because you can do some kind of manipulation at the end, right? So even though it might look like one player has maybe put some more cubes on the board, it looks like maybe they have the area majority. Some things can happen at the end where it actually swings it in the other way. So it really keeps the tension up to the end. So really like it.
Yep. So I just realised it's really funny that a lot of not a lot, but more than you'd expect of our favourite 2-player games involve Nixon, because my number 4 is Watergate, which I obviously like a lot more than you. But Tallie already said Watergate. It's about the Watergate scandal, Nixon versus journalists. And I just really like it because for me, it gives everything Twilight Struggle does in about a 45-minute box. And you still get that tension and that tightness. And it's just a more palatable way to get that. I mean, you've already said what's kind of great about it as well. It's tense, it's tight. It plays in similar ways. But I mean, obviously Twilight Struggle is a more expansive game. You get more out of it. It's more more going on. But I think if you just want that in a smaller, condensed experience without losing too much, Watergate. I think it's a really nice 2-player game.
Okay, so we're in the top 3 now. And my number 3 is Star Wars Rebellion. Really enjoy this game. Again, probably more than I thought I would when you first got it. I think it's really fun to have this. I know it's not hidden movement necessarily because the rebels are not moving around, but I think it's really cool to be hunting them. Again, it's quite novel, I think, all of the different combination of like the mechanisms in that game. And it's fun to play as either the Empire or the Rebels. If you want to be the Empire, go around hunting them, and you have to be a bit careful about where you're moving because your movement is limited. So it's the deduction of trying to figure out on what planet the Rebels are on. And for the Rebels, it's very tense, trying to bluff and not give away where you are.
I never give away where I am.
No, sadly not. Yeah, I think I was just super surprised how much I liked this, having never watched Star Wars before that. But actually, the board game got me thinking, hey, let's watch Star Wars. Now you got me to watch it, and I actually quite enjoyed it all. Now I'm quite into it because of the board game.
You're only into the Grogu.
No, I quite liked the original trilogy, but who doesn't like a Baby Yoda? Like, come on.
Yeah.
You've got to be a monster if you don't.
True. All right. So my number 3 is Polis. I think it's really mean and crunchy and harsh. I just think it's kind of a underrated 2-player game. If you like mean tight Euros or crunchy Euros, your Great Western Trails, maybe your Food Chain Magnus, or is that a Euro? I guess not. Oh, there's no luck involved, I guess. So
true.
These kind of like crunchy, expansive games, then Polis is for you. And the production value is top notch. So I think it's like a 2nd edition now. That's out. I don't know how available it is, but we have a review of that. You can see the dogs dressed as little Athenians and Spartans.
That was the best costume that I've made since doing this channel.
Yeah, I think the designer actually retweeted and appreciated that one.
Yeah, I think everyone thought it was absolutely hilarious.
You already talked about it, but I just like it a bit more than you.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right.
Oh, well, I'll tell you why it's very high. I can't remember what it's called now. Double layered player boards. Divots.
You're going to get 10 points from us.
You'll get a review if you put divots in your game.
Just divots in the player boards.
Yeah.
Always put the divots, people. Okay, so my number 2 is Undaunted Normandy. Yeah, it's pretty high compared to you. I'm surprised that you put it quite so low.
It's really funny because you look at these themes and you're just like, ugh. And now all of these like games that you hate the theme are like all the way down your list.
It's not that I hate the theme.
Well, you don't care.
It's interesting. No, it's just I don't love combat games. If it looks combat-y on the front, then I'm going to be a little bit apprehensive about it. That's all. I think the theme of Undaunted Normandy is like super interesting, given that it's not dudes on a map.
Yeah.
So, no, do you know what it is? The combat games that I don't like are the ones where it takes you like an hour to build up any kind of army or whatever, and then someone just wipes you out, and that doesn't happen in Undaunted Normandy, so it's okay. It's pretty high for me. I think everything you said about it, but maybe I just like it more than you, just rated it higher than you. I think it's really excellent. What?
Getting whipped.
Did I get whipped?
Well, you started off really strong and it was pretty equal to about the 6th game of the campaign, and then it's just like been downhill.
I know.
Although there was, to be fair, I'm being a bit mean, because in the last game we played recently-ish, there was like one turn where I think you could have won, right? Because you could have moved and flipped, and then did I kill one of your or something? Yeah,
you got lucky on a roll.
And I killed your little soldier man.
Rifleman A. R.I.P.
But yeah, you could have, it was like you could have won, but then I won the kind of who goes first. Yeah. And then I took him out, and then you're like, no. Or no, that wasn't it, actually. I think what it was is I moved my person there and flipped it to my control or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's very annoying, whatever it was.
But actually, I just want to say as well, one of the things I really love, it's like, it's all brutal and stressful, right? But I love the thing that every turn you have, you get 4 cards and you have to get rid of one to decide who goes first. And you have these fog of war cards that clog up your deck. So you obviously want to use them, but they have the lowest value. or your better cards have a higher value, but you want to use them. And it's like such a gut-wrenching decision every single turn, pretty much, to like go against, and because it can make a big difference if you go first or you go second.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely love that as a game mechanic. It's brilliant.
I think I was going to say that's why I enjoy it so much. It is really simple. You just draw 4 cards, play 4 cards or 3 cards every time. But the decision space is big because, like you said, you could decide that you want to go first, but then you have to give up your more powerful card, or each card also can do 4 different actions, but you can only use that card for a single action. So even playing a single card, you have to decide what you want to do with it, and in what order does it make sense, and just from 3 or 4 cards, right, every turn. I think it's really like clever game. So yeah, that's my number 2.
So my number 2 is 1960, Making of a President.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
You know what's funny? Actually, I had Watergate here, and then I think I remembered Polis, and then I was like, oh, Polis should be ahead of Watergate, and then it rearranged it all. But yeah, so 1960, and I think this is probably because I've played it more than you, because I've had a couple games with our friend when we used to have these like 2-player head-to-head days where we do like Twilight Struggle and things like that. We make a day of it, and I've played this with him a few times, played this with you a few times. Yeah. I just think it's more accessible than Twilight Struggle. Yeah. It kind of has more of a swashbuckling vibe because of the way it works with the cubes and the back and forth. I love the theme of Kennedy versus Nixon and like the US election, which people follow, you know, even now. Yeah. And this kind of battle, and like you said, the way you can flip at the end. I just really love the mechanics. I think it's really back and forth. I think it's kind of more fun and not as mean as Twilight Struggle. And it's just really like, I know, it pops a bit more to me. I'm surprised it goes more under the radar than some of those other like GMT games. Yeah. But yeah. So, I mean, there's no point us both doing number 1 because it's the same thing.
Say it together.
Well, no, because if we say it like off, then it'll sound really bad.
Okay.
But you can just tell them our number 1, and like we know, like we said, we didn't know what each other, but we both know what it's going to be.
I mean, we know what it's going to be. We haven't discussed it.
Yeah.
But it's just obvious because it's our favourite, and our number 1 is Caper Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've it's not back then.
Seen our channel before and some of our videos, you'll know that we've like raved about this in our review. I think we gave it 10 out of 10. Said it was a perfect game. I stand by it. I stand by it.
You had like
all these months later.
2 or 3 games the other day.
Yeah.
Well, so we only got it, let's say, just for New Year's. December, at the very end. And I already would make our, I think, top 10 most played games, which we did a video on that last year. Yeah. It would already be in there. Like, I think we've played like 25 times something.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it's just so good.
I mean, honestly, just watch the review because it's actually a short one. I think it's only like 10-minute review, and it's just a brilliant head-to-head 2-player game. So I guess if you don't know, you are competing thief gangs, and you go to a European city and you have a thief off. And
deciding who's the best.
Yeah, so there's a lot of tug of war about it's like who can move these trackers to their side of a location. There's 3 locations, but you're also stealing gear from each loot from each location. So you want to steal that, but then you want to play cards, and they can do different things. And it's just there's a lot of different arenas to battle over, and you could lose every single location and still
come out on top.
Or be very competitive, because we had a game where I think you fully got every location to your side, but because I'd focused on getting points from what cards I played, I end up 1 point behind you, which you would never think looking at that kind of game. Oh, you lost all 3 locations. You'll never even be in it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things you can do.
It's incredibly well balanced, and it's a drafting game as well because you pick one card, swap, pick one card, swap.
Yeah. So there's the tug of war element. There's when to play what cards, but also strategy around when you draft them. There's like a bit of set collection that you could do as well. So it's just a lot of different things, and you can up at the end. And exactly like you said, it's always tense because it's not immediately obvious who has won, because you can go down these different routes, and it's simple to play. You can get a few games in a session, maybe takes 15 or 20 minutes. The production value in, at least we have the Kickstarter version, right, is top notch. It's just like a really cool, like, zany, jazzy
by
thing.
the same publisher as Parks, so if you know the quality of Parks, that's what you're getting here.
Yeah, there's 4 different cities that you can play.
So much replayability. Yeah,
they each have different cards that are dealt in terms of like the locations that you battle over, and the thieves and the different gear cards. So it can really be a lot of different strategic decisions to make depending on what location you play as well. But then even within that, it could be like random combination of locations, and it's just so good. Number one, joint number one.
Yeah, like I said, we had the review. I think it's like 10 minutes long. You can hear all about exactly what is brilliant.
Yeah, we have a playthrough as well, actually.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to see
we do have a little playthrough
out as well. So we'll put all of the links to the relevant games that we've talked about in this video in the description box as well.
But yeah, so that was our top 10 2-player games. And please tell us what you thought of the list. Obviously, whose list was better. What games you think we egregiously missed out, except for 7 Wonders Duel. And please give us some more recommendations for your favourite 2-player games.
Yeah.
We haven't played everything, and we always want 2-player games, although we know they'll never be as good as Cape of Europe. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, if it was helpful, please consider subscribing, because it really means a lot to us.
Yep.
We will be back, I think, hopefully next week with a review, because we haven't had the chance to review lately, but we really want to, although we've really enjoyed doing buyer's guides.
Yeah.
We found those really fun, and we'll actually be back with maybe in 2 weeks. It's going to be our 2-year Border Vet anniversary, and we're going to have a little video where we discuss everything, like what we think about the last 2 years, how we feel we're doing, inside stories.
Yeah, we did one of those for our 1-year anniversary, so it'd be interesting to see what new stuff we have to say after the 2nd year.
I think we have a lot. I've been writing down all bullet points of discussion.
Interesting.
So yeah, but most importantly, thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the discussion of all these wonderful games.
Yep.
And probably going to go play one.
Yeah.
Soon, now.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, see ya.
Bye.